and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I'm Patrick O'Riordan, the Director of the Department of Building Inspection. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to ask questions, share your perspective, and offer your advice on how we can improve. Hearing from you is a critical part of our improvement efforts, and we are fortunate to have you as partners. Now, we have important updates today about our new online plumbing inspection scheduling process, pre-approved accessory dwelling unit plans, a new permit issuance report, and much more. After that, we'll open up the floor to general questions and comments so we can hear from you directly about what's working and what we can improve on, and how we can better serve you and the city. Thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to DBI Legislative Affairs Manager Tate Hanna, who is facilitating today's program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Director O'Riordan, and thanks to all of our attendees today. We appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. With us today is Kelly Omran, our Public Information Officer. Kelly, can you go ahead and explain to folks how they can participate and provide feedback?
Yes, will do. Thanks, Tate. So if you're joining us on your desktop or on your Microsoft Team applications and you have a question or a comment you want to share, you can click on the raise hand button at the top of the application, or if you're calling in, you can dial *5 to raise your hand and wait your turn. And once it's your turn to speak, I will call you by your name, and you can click on the unmute button on your desktop or Teams application. And if you're calling in over the phone, you can dial *6 to unmute. And please be sure to state your name and organization if you are representing one. And finally, to withdraw your question, or if you change your mind, you can press *5 or click the raise hand button again to lower your hand.
Thanks very much, Kelly. We'll be sure to leave space after each topic for questions and comments, as well as at the end. So please don't hesitate to raise your hand. All right, up first we have Sonia Harris, our Secretary for the Building Inspection Commission, to talk about Board of Examiners vacancies. Sonia, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Harris, and I'm Secretary to the Building Inspection Commission. And the Board of Examiners has a few vacancies. Okay, first, the Board of Examiners consists of 13 members who are experts in their field. They meet to determine whether specific new materials, methods, and types of construction comply with the safety standards in San Francisco's building codes. Currently, there are 4 open seats, one for licensed electrical engineer, seismic improvement tenant and architect, civil or structural engineer, a licensed general contractor, and a licensed mechanical engineer. And if you or any of your colleagues are interested in applying, please feel free to contact me by submitting a letter of interest and resume or CV to Sonia Harris, Secretary, Building Inspection Commission, 49 South Van Ness Avenue, Suite 500, San Francisco, California, 94103, or via email to dbi.commission@sfgov.org. And a bit of the details. These seats are 3-year appointments. Nominations are currently open to qualified San Francisco residents, and there's $125 compensation per meeting. And lastly, the application deadline is January 31st, 2025. So I'm available if there are any questions, and you can ask me now or later on via email. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Sonia. Do we have any callers that want to provide feedback or ask questions about the Board of Examiners vacancies?
Nope, looks like I don't see any hands raised.
All right, thanks, Kelly. And thanks again, Sonia. Moving on to the next topic, we have Michael Christensen with the Permit Center to discuss in-house review project submission processes and tips. Michael, go ahead.
Thank you, Tate. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to talk about our process that we've had for a little over a year now for submission of permits for in-house review, and some tips and general guidance on what we're seeing guiding applicants to success. So to go over the overview, the first step is really taking advantage of some of the great resources that the city has put together in the last year that are really helpful for understanding what you need to do and what you need to prepare in order to apply for your building permit. There's a step-by-step guide, which is now on the screen, that really ties together the requirements across the city agencies for what you need to do in advance of applying for a building permit, as well as what you need to provide when you do apply for a building permit. It's a fantastic resource. Before this was put together, applicants needed to really interact with all the different city agencies, know who to talk to, know where to find this information. And this document really ties that all together to where you can read it. And although it is lengthy and complicated, as our process can be, it really ties that all together so you can really understand what you need to do before and with an application. The list on this website is also what we use to do our completeness check. So as you go through it, you'll see there are pre-application steps, things that you need to do before you apply, like potentially getting a water flow study, getting city planning approval for your project, other kind of pre-planning work like getting a stormwater control plan filed. Once you've completed those, you prepare materials and plans. The website goes into detail on what materials you need as well. And then you submit your application using our online web form. So we're past the days of emailing your application in. Now you file using a web form that is dynamic, and we are continuing to improve to really guide you to what you need to do and only ask you the questions that are really relevant to your application. And once you submit, you receive a response from the city as we do a process that we call a completeness check. Next slide. So this completeness check process is looking across the city. So every agency that's going to review your permit, taking a look at what you've provided and making sure that we have everything we need to review your application. If we don't, we want to tell you up front what you need to provide. We want to get that so that we can all do our review as efficiently and quickly as possible and really get you to yes as quickly as we can. And there's 3 outcomes that can come from this process. The first, which is what the majority of submissions do receive, is a completeness determination. So we'll take a look. We're going to make sure that we have everything. And like I said, in the majority of cases, we do have everything we need and we deem the application complete. That's what we're all hoping for. We all hope that we read the website thoroughly, we know what we needed, and kind of that's where you submit fees and really kick off to formal review. The second potential outcome is if there is something missing, you can get a determination that your application is incomplete, and you get a letter that details exactly what you need to do to make it complete on your next application. Something to note here, there are cases where we do find that your application is missing something, and our customer service staff may reach out and really try to get it while we're still doing the review. So we're trying to avoid needing to issue a letter saying, here's what you're missing, and have you go through the entire submission process again. Particularly if there's things that are pretty simple to fix, we try to take care of that through our customer service staff and work with you to get it fixed so we don't need to deem it incomplete. But if there is something significant or we can't get it in time, you may get a letter that says your application is incomplete and details what you need to do to fix it. And then the third, fairly more rare outcome is your application may be fully rejected, which in most cases means that you need to go get city planning approval before you can apply for the building permit, or there's some really major deficiency that you really missed with your filing. Potentially you're just missing entire application forms that are needed. So that is an outcome that you really kind of need to start over, where you don't get a building permit number through that process. Next slide. Like we said, we are processing our completeness reviews within 15 days. Under state law, that's our maximum for housing projects, but we're taking it much further than that, where we are doing this completeness check for all submissions. We are very close to 100% of submissions happening within 15 days, but on average, we're taking only 6 business days to review these submissions. And that's a coordinated review where you are reviewed by DBI, Central Permit Bureau staff, plan review staff, reviewers from planning, fire, public works, the PUC, and public health. It's a very comprehensive review, and we are averaging a little under about 6 days, so we're moving pretty quickly on these. A little over half are deemed complete on each pass. 25% are deemed incomplete. And then our rejection rate, there's about a 19% rejection rate coming from DBI staff. That, like I said, that's usually where you're missing something pretty severe with the application, where we don't have what we need to set up a record. And then about 3% are rejected by planning, where applicants need to go and get their project entitled before they can come and apply for a building permit. Next slide. So some tips that we've seen that we would really help with getting you to complete faster. We see a lot of applicants that miss kind of fairly minor details. And we really want to encourage you to be really thorough as you're filling out application forms and documents. We try to combine things for you as much as we can. So things like our application forms often have legal disclaimers and notices that you need to sign and agree to, so that we don't need to send them to you on a separate document. But that does mean that you need to make sure to sign the application form, cross your T's, dot your I's. We see a lot of submissions that have very simple errors where there's a missing signature or a missing stamp. Plans do also need to be stamped by the plans preparer, and that is another very common error that we see through the completeness check process that we try to remedy before we can accept the application. And then finally, we don't accept partial submissions. And so we do see a lot of cases where an applicant is missing a document like a geotechnical report. And then when we reach out and ask about it, we do find that they might already actually have it and just didn't know that they needed to provide it up front. Back in prior years, you sometimes would provide documents piecemeal over the course of your review. Now we do really ask for them all up front. And so as you're going through the submission process, making sure you're giving us everything that you have for your permit submission, every report, everything that is going to be needed, you kind of provide it up front, because that's the way that we're operating now. If you're not ready, if you're still waiting on a report to get done, we would just ask that you wait and submit when you have that ready. Next slide. And just high level, kind of thinking through what we're able to accomplish by using a digital form. We have some improvements coming down the pipe. So in the short term, we are retiring the public health checklist. It is a checklist that is a separate PDF document that you need to download, kind of fill in a lot of duplicative information, check a bunch of boxes and re-upload it. Now we're going to be integrating that into the digital form, so that that's one less upload that you need to download, fill out, re-upload, but it'll just be asked on the form, and we will only ask the questions if they're actually relevant to your submission. We also have some improvements on our customer communication coming out. So when you hit different points in the completeness check process, you get emails that let you know where you're at, what's going on. We're working on improving those communications so they're much more clear and you understand exactly what your status is. Longer term, for applicants that are eligible for Prop H, we're looking at integrating that into the main web form. So there is still a separate application form just for Prop H, but we are looking to unify that into the main form. We're improving the form logic for some clearer guidance. So if we know that an upload is required for your submission, having the form guide you there and require the upload so that it is provided for our staff. We're trying to get our percentage of incomplete determinations down and get you accepted much faster. And then the bigger one is if you are missing something or you do need to correct something, we are trying to get to a state where you can just give us the thing that you needed to fix or provide, but you don't need to resubmit your entire submission in the event that you are deemed incomplete. So that's what we have coming down the pipe. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any questions on our planned improvements or anything about the form.
Thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing all that info. Kelly, would you mind queuing up some of the attendees that have questions?
Yes, it looks like David Penn has a question. David, go ahead and unmute your mic. All right, David, I will come back to you. Amanda Dunbar, looks like you have a question. Feel free to unmute your mic and take it away. And just a reminder, if you are calling in, you can dial *5. I'm sorry, *6 to unmute, or you can just click the mic button to unmute yourself. Another option is to type your question in the chat if there are some technical issues with unmuting. Okay, I think we will come back to you, Amanda and David, after the next presentation.
Apologies for the technical difficulties there, folks. We will try to circle back, make sure those questions get answered. And as Kelly indicated, you can always follow up after the webinar if we're unable to address these. But hopefully we'll get to that. Please do put them in the chat. We will address them as we can. And thanks again, Michael, for your presentation. Moving on to the next topic, we have Jose Lopez, a senior housing inspector at DBI, to talk about lead-based paint safety guidance. Jose, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Lopez. I am a senior housing inspector with the Housing Inspection Division. We in housing inspection provide the code enforcement when dealing with complaints that may have unsafe conditions when dealing with lead contamination, disturbing the materials that may put the public in danger. And we have two ways that we deal with this in where we deal with complaints about buildings that have situations or conditions where peeling paint exists, and we assigned these complaints to different inspectors throughout the city. We will identify the issue and we will write a notice of violation. In the notice of violation, we will include a warning that the property owners must follow when hiring a contractor to deal with the situation. In addition to that, we also have a team of lead work in progress, and that consists of me as a senior working with two housing inspectors who are assigned to throughout the city where we get complaints of work that is taking progress, and they're dealing with the conditions where they're removing the paint in an unsafe manner. Even though the permit is not required to address this type of work of painting an interior of a building or an exterior, safe work practices are required, and we are the division that provides the code enforcement. When we deal with these situations, We will investigate the complaints, and we will determine if any of the work has created dust of paint chips that is contaminating the property where the complaint is received, or perhaps the neighbor's property. We will also investigate if we have children residing at that property, and we will refer the case to the Department of Health if needed. We will write a notice of violation and ask to stop all work, and we will require the contractor will implement the safe protocols so they can continue with the work. And the protocol includes notifications to the residents, providing a signage on the property that's identifying that lead work is in progress, restricting the access to the work areas, and providing barriers to stop contamination to spread, protect the grounds from debris, prevent migrations of debris, and finally cleanups of the work areas every day. During the process of the work, the case is kept open, and our inspectors will go to the site more than one time to ensure that this protocol is being followed. That is what I have.
Thanks very much, Jose. Appreciate that info. Kelly, are there any callers looking to ask questions on this topic?
Yes, it looks like we have a question in the chat from Don Ma. Are there any project types that the completeness review is not required? It looks like that could be a question for Michael.
Sure. So completeness review is done for all submissions for new permit applications or addenda applications, even fire-only applications. Anything that comes through is going through that formal completeness check process. Prop H right now is going through a slightly different process, but we are looking to merge it in, but they also get some degree of completeness check.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Next, we have a question from Jane C. Hello, will you make the presentations available in PDF form? Yes, I'm happy to provide that. We also post a recording of this meeting on YouTube. And if you send me your email, I'm happy to share that link with you as well. And finally, we have a question from Amanda Dunbar. It's been my experience when submitting permits for review online that during the completeness review, if a document is missing, I would automatically receive an incompleteness review letter with no grace period for anyone reaching out to me to see if I have that document. So I would have to resubmit the full application online and go through the whole submittal process again.
Sure. So as I mentioned, there are kind of limited cases where we will have our customer service staff reach out and try to get the document that's missing. So in looking at some of the letters that we've issued to you, for example, one of the things missing was water flow, which that process of getting that through the fire department can take a few weeks. If we do, when we take a look at what's missing and see if we can reach out rather than issue the letter, one of the key considerations is whether the items on the letter are things that you can address within a day or two. And for things like water flow, especially, it's not possible to get that within a day or two. So we are really reaching out if we think that it's possible, but if it looks like the items are complicated and it's going to take some time, we do issue the letter. So I do apologize, but it does seem like, you know, it's possible that your project just had comments that were a little bit more, need a little bit more time to address.
Right. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Amanda, for your question. And it looks like we have a hand raised from David Penn. David, feel free to unmute.
Great, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Just FYI to those others on the call, if you are attending on your phone, I don't think the, like not calling in, but actually on the Microsoft Teams invite on your phone, I don't think the mute unmute function works. You got to be on a computer. At least that's my experience. Just wonder if others are having that issue. Yeah, so thanks, Michael, for all of your work and feedback on this completeness process. I think just one of the things I just want to kind of state to you and to the DBI team is, you know, if this can be monitored and measured, I know that the original intent of the program was to, you know, try and save time and capture efficiency on the permit process. And, you know, it is a little discouraging to hear that, you know, just about only about half, it sounds like, of applications are deemed complete the first time. So, and it's great to hear that the timeline for completeness review is down to such a low average of days. In my experience, it has been, you know, closer to 2 business weeks. So like 10 business days, 2 weeks. And then if you get an incompleteness letter, you know, you got to resubmit. So that's, you know, you're kind of 4 weeks already off the bat, and then take in, you know, in context of 6 to 8 weeks queue for building structural review. It just begins to kind of, it begins to be a question to me if on average of applications, you know, if the process is leading to efficiency. And, you know, it would be great to know that, and it sounds like you are monitoring and trying to continually improve the process so that it does lead to, you know, a shorter process and more efficient process overall. The other thing I just wanted to say quickly was it is such a comprehensive completeness review by, you know, departments such as PUC and DPH. And what we're noticing is that there have been some changes in processes and how those departments, PUC and DPH in particular, interact with DBI and the permit process that haven't been super clear to the applicant community, such as the DPH MAHR requirements. It used to be that, you know, if you had submitted a MAHR application, you could submit a building permit application, but now we are getting feedback from DPH. And I know this, I don't believe DPH is on the call, but we're getting feedback back from DPH that actual certain reports and mitigation, sometimes plans need to be both, you know, have been produced and approved by DPH prior to permit application submission at all. Likewise with PUC and stormwater control plan, preliminary stormwater control plan approval being required before we can even submit. And that my concern, and I believe the concern of the applicant community when it comes to those 2 specific examples, is that, you know, there are instances where DBI may have comments during plan check that could impact the stormwater control plan or the environmental site mitigation plan. And, you know, previously the process worked pretty well because essentially the way it worked out, though it wasn't nearly as well coordinated as it now is, the way it kind of worked out was that all of these stations were reviewing in parallel, and the applicant was able to get the clock started on the building permit application and get those comments, you know, and that plan check started while DPH was doing their review on MAHR and site mitigation, and PUC was doing their review on stormwater control plan. So, you know, I just wanted to make that point to the DBI team that, you know, is part of your larger coordination efforts. And when you're talking to DPH and PUC, I'm hoping that you can discuss this, you know, what's in the best interest of the client or the applicant, given the, you know, the lengthy reviews from each of these agencies, and what can be reviewed in tandem. And as I know I'm rambling on a bit here, but as just a quick suggestion for what might be done differently is if DPH and PUC could do something a little bit more like what DPW does on some of their projects, where they do kind of a cursory review such that they have some confidence that, you know, the building project is feasible, and or have the applicant sign an at-risk letter such that they understand that a compliant stormwater control plan will be required before the permit can be issued or finalized in the field. Likewise with you know, any environmental mitigation required from SFDPH. Something closer to that or more like that, rather than, you know, full-on approvals of early project requirements as a prerequisite to building permit submission.
Michael Christensen again. I'll leave some response for if DBI has anything to add, but I do want to note that there is some work already in development, particularly in the short term with the PUC, that is directly addressing the comment that you provided. We're not ready to talk about that today, and I'm sure the PUC will have information on that coming out very soon. So I would say to take a look out for that soon, but it is something I'm sure will make you happy, David.
Okay, that's great news.
So I also just wanted to add, thank you for the comments, David. We have been in communication with the health department on its site mitigation program in order to smooth that out a little bit. And we have gotten headway on changing the process to allow some of the smaller projects that don't need a full-on site mitigation program or plan. We've also moved the ability to have the DPH approval as the first addendum for MAR, for example, and move that out of the site permit or the review process in order to in order not to hold up the permit submittal. So just recognize that we have heard you and that we have been in communications, at least with with PUC and health department.
Neville, thank you so much. That's very comforting to hear. Just some quick feedback to what you just said. One of the issues we're having is that it's a little less common, but occasionally we do submit full, not site permits. Yeah. For even like small new construction buildings, like a storage for like a one-story storage facility, right? Sure. It's a full package. So if what you're discussing with PUC and DPH can also accommodate, you know, and the more standard full permit process rather than the kind of Byzantine site permit process, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on it. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again, David. Next, we have a question from Nick. Nick, feel free to unmute yourself and take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I just want to give a shout out to the permit center, Wendy and Amira. The job they're doing with minimizing the delay with incomplete permits is really good. And I think DBI should be appreciative of that because it's really saving on, you know, people having to get incomplete letters and losing 2 weeks. Instead, they're losing a day or two. So I think that's really important. And hopefully that will be maintained and improved upon. The other thing, and I know I've mentioned this to Neville, is a lot of the CPB comments we get are like little typos, like, you know, accidentally put 6 stories instead of 7 stories, little things like that. Some are preference items on how indexes look. And is there an effort to have CPB staff call permit applicants directly to resolve minor things like that? I know that would really improve and streamline the submittal process.
Nick, thank you again. Thank you for those comments. DBI is definitely appreciative of the work that Wendy and Amira do. If you remember, DBI started the pre-plan check process, and CPB regularly used to reach out and continue to reach out whenever they can. The process was reimagined, re-engineered to have the permit center do that work primarily, which is the reason why you see as much of Wendy and Amira as you do. But whenever we can, we will do that. And just so I can characterize these typos, right? Clearly, when we look at the time savings overall and the overall process of intake to issuance, we looked at it, and there was a shared responsibility of both the applicant and the departments, or the city and the county. And so this is part of the applicant's responsibility to spend that extra amount of time to make sure the applicant is right, because those, if you can imagine a typo on an address, for example, or the number of stories in your particular case, where we look at coordination between the application and the plans, and then what we type into the permit tracking system. It's important that we understand this, and a lot of times we, with CPB, have technicians and not really plan checkers making those determinations. So, not to say that I don't appreciate your comments, I really do. Our staff is really committed to getting you through the completeness check, and we will certainly continue to strive to do better.
Great, thank you. And you know where I'm coming from back in the days, when we are sitting face to face with someone, and these little things are resolved in 2 seconds, just change this and that. So, anything to get us back to closer to that is, would be beneficial to everyone. That's all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Looks like that's all the questions we have for now.
Great. Thanks very much, Kelly. And thanks for those great questions, folks. We appreciate the feedback, and thanks to Neville and Michael for those great answers. Up next, we have our Inspection Services Manager, Giles Samarasinghe, to talk about plumbing inspection scheduling and payment processes.
Hello, I'm Giles Samarasinghe. I manage inspection services. So approximately 2 months ago, we rolled out a new module for online inspection scheduling for plumbing and mechanical. This module allows the general public, anybody with a permit, to go ahead and schedule the inspection. The thought process behind this is to make it as convenient and available to people as possible, because currently only registered contractors can schedule inspections online. But going forward, plumbing and mechanical inspections can be scheduled online by anybody. We also hope to expand online scheduling for building and electrical also. So we are right now, the way to think of it is we are sort of in the proof of concept stage, and if this sort of works out, we will be rolling it out for the other divisions also. And our communications team did a great job of creating a dedicated web page where contractors, general public, homeowners, anybody can go through and schedule their inspections. It's a nice, clearly laid out web page, and the module itself is also very easy to use. All you would need at this point is like your plumbing or mechanical permit number and the street number and name. We ask that people input the street number only, so that it's a validation check to make sure that somebody didn't make a typo or anything on the plumbing or mechanical permit. They can also now pay for additional inspections for plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. So if you already have a permit and you need to just purchase additional inspections, you can just go ahead and do so. And that's the, lower graphic is for additional payments. Next slide, Kelly. So you can go to the web page. The link is right here. It'll take you to the web page I just mentioned with all of the different types of possibilities of how to schedule an inspection. We continue to offer the phone scheduling option. It's a little bit more complicated, so I sort of encourage people to go to the online scheduling whenever they possibly can. Also, the online scheduling will have like a list of inspection codes, etc., available online, whereas on the phone, you would have to sort of listen to a whole series of scheduling codes. It's a little bit more time consuming. So again, I encourage people to, start using the online scheduling module whenever possible. And that's what I have. And if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks very much for that presentation, Giles. Kelly, do we have any folks lined up to ask questions or provide feedback?
Looks like we do not.
All right. Thanks again, Giles. Appreciate it. And if questions do come up, again, we'll be taking general questions towards the end. So another opportunity to ask Giles. Up next, we have Neville Pereira, our Deputy Director for Permit Services, to talk about pre-approved accessory dwelling unit plans. Neville, take it away.
Hey, good afternoon again, everybody. So I'm excited to introduce this to you. As many of you know, the city and county as a whole has revamped its approach to accessory dwelling units. We talked last public advisory forum of the ADU permit review roundtable, where we're essentially piloting this new way of, or this intermediate way of doing plan reviews for projects that are marginally over the threshold of an OTC, bringing them into a structured environment where we can have all agencies look at the project at the same time. So that's the permit review roundtable, and this is an extension of it. The pre-approved accessory dwelling unit program was born out of state legislation of AB 1332, and really asked California jurisdictions to set aside a catalog essentially of pre-approved plans that have gone through and gotten reviewed in isolation off the site themselves, so that all of the code requirements of the building itself that are encapsulated within the building are checked one time, and then you can take those code requirements and replicate them on different sites. Building designers can now submit your ADU designs to us directly. This is for detached accessory dwelling units, not attached dwelling units, because as you can imagine, the scenarios of attached accessory dwelling units or junior ADUs are many and too difficult to focus on a individual plan. So this is restricted to detached accessory dwelling units, and once approved by the departments or agencies that are reviewing the building, they become listed on our catalog on our website, and the graphic shows you our website. You can step through that. It goes through step by step of the process of submitting your plans, the process of what gets reviewed, and how we then save those plans on our catalog. Once these plans are available on our website, individuals that are looking to use that design or can select it and get information from the website for that designer hire that designer or use that design on their site. So we would expect a set of plans developed for the site that not only has the pre-approved plan set for the building, but then essentially just has the site constraints for the individual parcel. There's one caveat that this program doesn't work for certain restricted zones that are subject to Slope Protection Act or landslide or liquefaction, or areas where they're MAHAR consideration by the Public Health Department. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you submit your ADU design, it would be done through our current website address of the pre-app requests at sf2gov.org. This site is already, or this email address is already monitored. It's an existing resource that we have that we can take in these plans. Once we receive your application, we will invoice you for the fee, the $956, and then we will go about reviewing the set of plans using our permit review roundtable, whereby within 2 weeks, we'll set all departments up to review the design of the building itself and come to back to the designer with our comments on the design and go through that one more time after the corrections, if there are corrections that need to be made. And then once it's approved, it then gets uploaded to our website and becomes eligible to be used for that entire code cycle. We want to be clear here that so every 3 years or within the code cycle, if you were to get it approved today, you would only have the remainder of this year to use it before it became eligible for renewal the following code cycle. The code cycle is 3 years. So for 3 years, the plan can exist. The reason why we do this, obviously, that they may be changes to the code that would need to be reflected in the plan for the following year. So that's it. Are there any questions? I'm ready to answer them if there are any.
Thanks, Neville. Appreciate it. Kelly, do you want to queue up any folks who have questions?
Don't see any hand raised, but I do see a comment in the chat from Amanda Dunbar, who says, "Thank you for creating the ADU Roundtable program. I found it really helpful, and the plan checkers assigned have been continuously responsive with any questions I have via email after the roundtable meeting." Thank you for sharing, Amanda. We appreciate
That
the feedback.
Amanda. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Don't
you so
get enough
much.
of that. Keep it coming.
Nice.
Thanks, Neville and Kelly.
Okay.
Moving on, we have Alex Sabato, our program and project manager, to talk about our new permit issuance report. Alex, whenever you're ready.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I work as a program manager, and we are very excited to be launching a new application report and building permit in Debris. So this is this journey started about 4 years ago as we did our digital transformation during COVID. Since then, we've made a lot of progress integrating technology into our operations. We've created new websites. We have a new electronic permit application and plan review, instant online trade permits, online inspection scheduling, digital building records, and online report submission portals. And you've heard some updates on those earlier today. Next slide. So in February, we'll be introducing a new permit format and permit application report for in-house review permits applications. And this is and it's one report that has all the critical project information in place. So right now, when an application is submitted, DBI creates a digital application report of all the permit information associated with that application. The digital report will be your living document that gets updated as the permit moves through the review process. You as an applicant can request a copy of this application report at any time during the permitting process. So you can see a copy of that on the right-hand side of the slide deck. And note, this is not a permit. Next slide, please. So once a permit application is approved through plan check and the applicant pays the final permit fees, the permit application report will be stamped by DBI. And this report is now the building permit. So you'll see the new DBI issued stamp on the new permit report there. The building permit will be issued either by emailing it to the applicant or we'll be printing it on site for you. And the applicant will also receive this as along with the job card, which is the on-site record for project inspections. Next slide. And just, this is for in-house review of all building permits, so it includes new construction, additions, signs, grading, demolition. I think we can go to the next slide. So why the change? As we've moved from paper to digital, notice that permit information is spread across multiple documents and databases. Permit applications and payment receipts are separate and the fees that are charged are in multiple places, so it's not always very clear. Permits for paper applications filed in person have to be collected in person at DBI's office. Paper system requires substantial manual staff work, and it really slows down our processing. And scope modifications, revisions, things that happen during the application journey, which is captured in the system, now have to be manually transposed to the pink slip. So just to walk through what the permit application or the permit report shows. So it'll have the project address on the header. You'll see the project address, the project parcel number, the construction type, any permit types, whether it's a full or site permit. Project.
You get a medium chocolate and vanilla on a cake.
Okay. So in the first, and that's in the header, along in the head as well in the header, you'll see the application number, the issuance date, the expiration date, and the permit print date. You also see the DBI issuance stamp and date, and that's how you know when the permit was issued. First section below that is, the various project stages in which time they hit those stages, as well as then project contacts. You'll denote that the permit applicant is actually denoted with an asterisk, so you know which of the contacts was the applicant. The scope of work is clearly printed, and then the project characteristics are clearly listed. Let's see. Oh, and just to point out at the bottom on every page, you will see a QR code. This will take you to the inspection scheduling page that Giles had spoken to earlier. So second part of this, the header remains the same. So you'll still see the project address, parcel, construction type, permit type. This next box is really related to the fees. So you'll clearly see all the fees that were assessed on this permit, the fees that have been paid to date, the date the payment was received, and any outstanding balances on this permit. Next page, please. The header remains the same, and this next section really is to capture all the plan review approvals. So it has the department station, the finish date of the completed approved reviews, the review results, any staff plan checker names, so you know who actually did the review, and any comments they have made. And last page is some separate verbiage for boilerplate verbiage, and then also just to note that any separate electrical, plumbing, or other related work permit that may be required is not included on this permit. Next page, please. And then if you noted the QR code again on the bottom, if you scan with your phone, it'll take you to the DBI inspection scheduling webpage, and it allows you to schedule inspections for building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical permits as well. Okay, so next steps. The transition to the new application report and permit will launch in February. During this transition, applicants will still retain their paper applications and will still be able to request a copy of their application report anytime. When the permit is issued, applicants will keep the paper application as it will contain physical stamps from each city department that approves the project, and then in the coming months, those stamps will be incorporated into the new permit format. That's all I had. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Alex. Kelly, do we have any participants ready to ask any questions?
Yes, we have a question from David Penn. Feel free to unmute yourself and take it away, David.
Thanks. I guess two questions. One, is this meant to eventually replace the various form applications? And then the second question is, this looks like it's primarily, I mean, you did explain it helps processes on the DBI side be more efficient and reduce manual labor, but is there some other use that DBI has in mind for this new report?
Yeah. So I think it's actually better for applicants as well. You guys can see all of your information in one place. So currently you guys have the permit. I think there's the permit receipts when you get pay your filing fees. You get permit receipts when you pay your issuance fees. You'll have to look at both of those pieces of paper to see what the fees assessed were and what's been paid. You are looking at the original application form, right? The pink form, the PDF of the pink form, and changes are made on it. And depending on everyone's handwriting, so forth, it's not the easiest and most legible to read. So the long term is, yes, the PDF applications will still happen for you to submit your application. The long-term goal is to not use that application once it's submitted. We will hold the information into our system and we will generate a permit report for you at the end. And during that process, there's an application report so that you can see where you are in that process.
Got it. Thank you. And will this be for all permits, OTC and in-house?
This February launch will be for in-house only. We will be following up with OTC.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, David, for your question, and Alex as well. Let's see, we did have a question from Ian Dunn in the chat. He asks, are the site plans required to be prepared by the form that created the original, or by the firm that created the original plan? And Neville answered, not necessarily. The program is intended to have the original designer sell the floor plan for multiple use on different sites, and thus it is possible for a separate design professional to use the pre-approved plan for a particular site. In this case, the designer of record will be between the building and the site on the permit application. And next we have a question from Don Ma, who asks, will the report include review deadline to track timeline? For example, XX days to receive plan check comments from XX department, and will planning review be included in the report as well?
Okay. Thank you for your question, Don. The first question is, no, we will not be using the permit to track timelines. It will have and to answer your second question, yes, all city departments, their plan check, review and review comments and dates will be included in the permit issuance, in the permit.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Dawn. Next, we have a question from Sam. If the permits were filed before the roundtable program and are still under planning review, are we eligible to participate without withdrawing the permit?
Yeah, so I can jump into that one. So I'm assuming, Sam, that you're talking about something that's going through some sort of entitlement because planning doesn't usually spend a lot of time on ADUs, especially the state and hybrid program, and maybe if Liz Waddy is still on this call. But usually, if you're coming out of a planning process and you get your planning approval letter, you can go right into the building permit process, and then we would schedule you for the permit review roundtable for that project. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay.
Thank you, Neville. Let me just double check if there are any additional questions. Any hands raised? Final call for questions or comments, suggestions? Oh, David Penn, take it away.
Thanks. Maybe this one's for Michael Christensen. Just as a stretch goal for the submission process and completeness review. In many other jurisdictions, who do something similar, when you get feedback on an incomplete application, it's really detailed around what documents you need to upload, which I think DBI is doing a pretty good job of as well on the Permit Center. But I think would be a great stretch goal is if you only have to upload the documents that are being requested, either with revisions or because they weren't requested in the first place. It's just if you have to go back and completely redo the entire process and re-upload everything that you uploaded before, even though it was deemed complete and good, it just creates another opportunity for some mistake to be made, the wrong file is grabbed, and results in another round.
Totally hear you, David, and that is on our longer term roadmap. It's a little bit more complicated than some of our easy wins that we're looking at in the short term, like getting rid of the DPH checklist. But we do want to get to that state as soon as possible, where especially if you need to correct something, upload one little document, you don't need to do the entire thing over again and start from scratch. We're kind of evaluating some technology tools that will get us to be able to do that. But it is something that we're very aware of, and I totally understand it's a big headache to have to do.
Awesome. Glad to hear it's on your radar. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, David. Looks like I don't see any additional questions.
Great. Thanks very much, Kelly, and thanks for those questions on our final presentation. I want to open the floor up to just general questions now. If you didn't get to squeeze in a question on an earlier topic, if you have questions on things we didn't cover today, now would be the time to ask. So Kelly, please feel free to queue folks up if there are any.
Okay, I'll give it a few seconds. Any questions, suggestions? Nope. Tate, looks like I don't see anyone with a question.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Kelly. Well, we've covered a wide range of topics today. I know it's a lot of information, but we're always curious to hear what folks want to learn about and hear about in the future. So if you have suggestions for future public advisory forums, now would be the time to send them in. We will, of course, take feedback up until that next public advisory forum, but now would be the easiest. So if you do have suggestions, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Thanks, Tate. I'll give it a few seconds for people to type any suggestions or general comments or questions. All are welcome. Okay, looks like we have a message from Amanda Dunbar, who says Marin County uses a file upload system called Project Docs. Good to know. Thank you for your note, Amanda. And Sherry asks, will you be holding any code updates seminars for the public?
I can answer that. We totally are expecting to do code update seminars for not only internal in-house plan reviewers, but also open that up to the public as well for design professionals, permit consultants, and whoever else is interested. I'm currently laying out the program for the entire year. We have the state updates already available, so we can start training on those immediately. So stand by. I think it'll be a good opportunity for folks to participate in that. We will have that the opportunity to either come into the department or to participate as we're currently doing virtually as well. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Neville. One more message, follow-up message from Amanda, who mentioned Marin County using a file upload system called Project Docs. Amanda adds, it allows you to upload individual documents. Again, thank you for your note and your feedback. Any other questions, feedback, suggestions? Oh, we have a couple messages from Karen. Thank you for sending that over. In Sunnyvale, California, they have an OTC process that the plan checkers are the one meeting the applicant, not the applicant going around the plan checkers counters. And she also writes, building permit plan check appointments, we accept over-the-counter plan check appointments in the morning and email us to request an in-person appointment and include permit number, project type, square footage and address, applicant name and phone number, attendee name and phone number. And before your appointment, create your online account, generate a new building permit, and submit your plans. Thank you for your note, Karen. I will also be writing this down. Any other suggestions, feedback, or comments? Okay, it looks like I don't see any more, Tate.
All right. Well, I did want to thank all of the attendees today and flag that our next public advisory forum will be Wednesday, April 23rd. So we're looking forward to seeing you all there. Thanks again to all of our presenters. Again, you've got an email up on screen in front of you in case you didn't get any questions or you have just general feedback. Please don't hesitate to reach out to that email in front of you. And thanks again for attending. We'll see you at the next one.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.